Kathleen. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Podcast. I'm Dr. Jesse Abend.
And I'm Kathleen Ascanio, one of the Healthy Coaches.
And registered dietitian. So she's an expert. Yes. She is amazing. Today's episode, we'll be talking about macronutrients.
Yes, it's a hot topic.
Very hot topic. To be honest, I didn't know when people refer to it, they're always talking about macros. I didn't know that was such a buzzword, I guess, until somewhat recently.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of picked up in the last few years, especially with the peak of, like low carb diets or no carb diets, high protein. And I think a lot of people are like, what is that even? So I'm glad we get to talk about it, kind of, clear the air, and this is what it is. And this is kind of what it means when we're talking about macros and counting macros and what that looks like.
All right. Yeah, good. It's a great topic. It's something everyone talks about, but maybe they don't really understand it that well. So we'll try to clear it up, explain it in a way that they can understand, because it's a pretty simple concept. So it's just help people understand it so that they can know how to, use that information to eat healthier. So let's get right into it.
Yeah. Well, let's just break down the word macronutrients. So macro is large. That's what it means. And then on the flip side, you have the micronutrients, which are the small, but your macros are pretty much just large chunks of nutrients that your body needs to sustain life. And the most popular macro that we all hear about is protein and carbs. But there's also fat. And there's also one that not a lot of people think about, and it's actually alcohol. So we'll touch on it a little bit and what that looks like if you're planning on, looking at your macros. But so basically, large nutrients.
Large nutrients. Basically the main composition of most of the foods that we eat.
Yes.
Is made up of three main nutrients. If you're a party goer, if you enjoy partying, maybe it's four main nutrients. But yeah, let's get into it. So what macro do you want to talk about first? Carbohydrates? Let's go on that one. A very controversial macronutrient.
Yes.
A macronutrient some people hate and some people love. I personally enjoy carbohydrates.
Likewise.
And so let's get into maybe, Kathleen, why do I enjoy carbohydrates? Maybe you can fill me in.
So your carbohydrates, your carbs, are what make up your body's preferred fuel source, which is glucose. Now, your body can run on other fuel sources. Like we hear people going into ketosis and burning fat and stuff like that. But your body loves and prefers glucose. And in fact, about 40 to about 55% of your diet should come from carbohydrates. And that can be quite a big number when you break it down into grams, which is how we look at most macros, is in grams. So everybody has their very own unique amount of macros that we need. Just like calories, we can kind of guess and see about how much you need. Same thing with macros, but everybody's going to be different as well.
Yeah, and that's an important point. Everyone's going to be different in the amount of energy and macronutrients that they need, and in the preference as well. And maybe some people have adapted to use certain energy different than other energy sources. But yeah, carbohydrates are an important nutrient because they provide you with that quick energy. They're great. It takes it's faster to break down and convert into energy than fat is. So that's why our body, goes to it first. Like, for example, if you are exercising or using your muscles in some way, your body's going to want to break down that carbohydrate and use that glucose right away before it goes onto the fat. And what's cool, people probably don't know, is that you also have a storage system of carbs in your body in the form of glycogen. So, right, you take in the carbohydrate, then if you don't need it right away, you can actually store it in your muscles and in your liver. And that way, if you are using your muscles in the case of exercising, your body gets it right away. Quick, fast energy. It's why we prefer it.
Yep. And that's one of the things too, is when people, cut out carbs from their diet, we see such kind of an immediate weight loss, and it could be a pretty good chunk. And everyone's like, wow, that was great. Well, you're actually depleting your stores. And so what happens is that glycogen, which is carbs in storage form, hang on to water when it's in your muscles. And then when you deplete all those stores, the water goes with it. So, and water is weight. So we tend to see a little bit of weight loss too when we cut out a whole macro.
So that's an excellent point. And that's why I think the diet of very low carb or keto, maybe it becomes so popular, is because people can get this almost unrealistic or this fake weight loss right up front. So it looks like this diet is going to be incredible. I've already lost X amount of weight. I've never lost this much weight before, but it's short-lived because you're losing that water that comes with that storage of carbohydrates. And then eventually, again, if you've cut out carbohydrates completely and you've been used to eating carbs your whole life, most of your life, which is most people, your body is not going to want to stop eating carbohydrates for various physiological and psychological reasons. So it's going to be difficult to sustain. And look, maybe some people can. It's rare, and I always think that everyone's different, and some people, again, are going to prefer different energy sources and different macronutrient combinations. But for most people, I think cutting out carbs 100% would likely be a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. And there's again, the whole craze kind of kicked in, I think, because of that weight loss. But you hit on it. It is so difficult to maintain. You think about, the course of a year. Well, what are all the things that happen in a year? And, and not only that, like the cost to, increase your protein and your fat and all the other things that come along with just cutting out carbs. It can be really difficult. And like you said, psychologically, it can also play a big role on that as well, because there tends to be like a negative impact if you were to come off of this kind of diet. So I encourage everyone to eat all foods, enjoy all foods. And it does have a place, in your everyday life as well. But I think the carbohydrates themselves are really important. And I think a lot of people just don't realize how important they are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, our brain needs to function. All of our organs, and needs that quick energy. So it's not to say your body can't adapt and learn to just run on ketones from breaking down your fat, but is that the best thing? Maybe for some people, but probably for most people, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And even if it is the healthiest thing, life gets in the way. Let's be realistic here. Like, we have a lot of other things that are important. Sometimes more important than the foods we're focusing on, even though our health really is number one. But we have to be realistic in how we eat and think, is this something I can sustain for my entire life, or is this just going to be a temporary thing that is not necessarily going to last?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people, say carbohydrates, the first thing people think about is like bread and pasta. Or sweets. And really, there's so much more than that. I mean, you're looking at beans and rice, corn, potatoes, fruit even. And to, kind of live a long time without eating those foods, you're selling yourself short, because you're cutting out tons of other nutrients that your body really does need as well.
Yes. So let's talk about that, because I think when people say carbs are bad, they're thinking of that white pasta, that white bread, those simple carbohydrates, right? Let's break it down for terms that people tend to know: simple and complex. So when we're probably talking about carbohydrates, we are in particular speaking about complex carbohydrates, which is essentially a food that's made up of, a large part carbohydrate, but it's also containing a lot of the other important nutrients that you need to maintain health. It's not just pure sugar, which is basically what bread and pasta is. It's containing fiber, protein, fats, vitamins and
Yes.
minerals, which is all very important for you. So if you are not eating carbohydrates and you're cutting that out of your diet, you may be missing out on important nutrients and minerals and fiber and other protein and fats that you will be getting in healthy carbohydrates.
Absolutely.
For example, like fruits, vegetables, whole grains. So I think that's an important point for people to understand. Yeah, you probably should limit, nothing's off limits, like you say, but you should probably limit candy and pasta and white bread if you can, but try to eat the complex carbohydrates.
Yep. 100%. I mean, again, I think the biggest thing is fiber. And, as Americans, we typically don't get enough fiber, and how important fiber is. And then again, you just cut out a whole macro, and that's the only source of fiber.
Mm-hmm. Fiber is a carbohydrate.
You can't find it in protein or fat or alcohol. And so, just thinking just the amazing benefit that fiber brings, and then just to take it all away, it can, I think long-term does more harm than good.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, fiber is important in a lot of bowel function. I think that, it's also been in research showing that when you consume a certain type of fiber, you're actually feeding your gut bacteria.
Yes.
And we have this complex role between ourselves and the bacteria that lives inside of us. And this bacteria actually produces short chain fatty acids that then feed our colonocytes, or the cells in our colon that our colon use for its main energy source. And that comes from fiber. So it's just this complex relationship we have between fiber and bacteria and our intestines.
Yeah. So. I mean, and even on, just in general, like fiber also helps you feel full. And when you're looking at weight loss, I never want anybody to feel so hungry or they feel like they can't eat anything. And one thing I really talk about is like, how can we increase our fiber, our fullness? And, we get that through carbs. And not only that, there's so much research coming out now that's saying that fiber is, helping with weight loss, and they think it is beyond just that fullness, and they're starting to link it to the gut and so many other things. So eat the carbs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that was a good amount on carbohydrate.
We could go a lot on carbs.
Yeah, we could probably do like a full episode on carbohydrates, which maybe we'll do one day. You want to move on to protein?
Yeah. So protein is another hot macro. So you're looking at.
I guess they're all hot. We're going to tell.
I know. Well, I think we just hear it. Like I said, it's a buzzword. It's everywhere. It's high protein, and if you have your beef, chicken, pork, turkey, fish, eggs, cheese, your animal products, that's protein. Again, protein, very, very vital for your body. We consider protein like your building blocks that make up your body. Without it, we can't, I should also note that a lot of other carbohydrates have protein in it. So like beans and rice as well. So eat the carbs.
Yeah. I mean, every nutrient has its importance. So, carbohydrates, there's never one super nutrient, even though there's always a new study in a new magazine or whoever is saying this is the most important superfood and super nutrient you should be eating. Yeah. They all have their importance and their roles that they play in our body. Protein is no different. And protein is found in all the foods you mentioned. And I do want to talk about, and I can get your opinion on this as well, but a lot of foods market their products, sometimes processed foods, and this is an interesting topic too to discuss. A lot of vegan foods now in making sure that there's protein in it. Now, not all protein is the same.
Correct.
Right, because this is a large macromolecule, like we said, that's made up of smaller subunits of amino acids. Right, and these amino acids, whether like 20 or so amino acids that make up proteins, and depending on the protein source, you're going to get different amino acids. 9 of these amino acids are essential for your body, which means that we cannot make them and synthesize them in our body ourselves using other nutrients. We have to get them from our diet. And so I know vegetarians and vegans have difficulty taking in all of getting in their protein, more specifically making sure they get in the correct amino acids, because not all the amino acids are always present in all of the vegetarian vegan foods that they're eating. Not to say that's a bad way of eating, that's an excellent way of eating, but you have to be, I guess, careful of how you're going about it.
Yeah. So there, you said it, the 9 essential amino acids, they, some foods have them in terms of plant-based foods. Some may have 8, and some may only have 2. So typically somebody who is primarily plant-based, I would encourage them to focus on combining foods. So beans and rice, for example, what beans have, rice doesn't, and vice versa. So together you can get your 9 essential amino acids in that. So, and it's really kind of hard to go through all of the plant foods and say, okay, this has this many, and then you want to pair it with this. So really, I would encourage everyone just to eat a variety of foods. Mm-hmm. Nuts are a great protein source. We kind of consider them a fat first, but they do have protein, and they may have some amino acids that another food may not have.
Yeah, good point. You just focus on a variety of foods. Even if you're not vegetarian or vegan, I mean, it's good for everyone to eat a diversity of foods, because there's so many nutrients. They all play a complex role, and they're all connected together.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I think it's important for people to know when there are foods, mainly processed foods, saying we've got this much protein in it. Again, don't just be fooled by saying we've got this much protein. Understand that not all protein's the same. Make sure you're getting in the right amino acids as well, because those are vital to your health. They provide functioning for your brain, your neurons, your heart, cells, everything. I mean, like you said, protein is literally the building blocks of our body. Almost everything is made of protein.
Yes. Very important.
Let's move on to fats, or is there anything else did we miss that you feel like is worth discussing with protein?
I think the biggest thing with protein, we kind of hear people saying like, more protein, more better. And that's not always true. So anything in excess, even if it's a healthier food, can not be great. So I encourage people not to do too much protein. It can wear on your kidneys. It can be a lot. So just getting what you need, and, just eat a variety. Yeah,
good point. And I think for a lot of people who are trying to, let's say, build muscle and work out, sometimes people think, I'm just going to eat all this protein and I'm going to have magic muscles after eating this protein and consuming all this protein powder. But that's not the case. So with the excess protein, people thinking they're going to eat extra, it's going to turn into muscle. But if your body's not going to eat it, not going to use it, it's just going to turn into fat. You're going to store it for later.
Yep. And that's what fat is.
Yeah. And that's what's incredible about our bodies. That nothing goes to waste. If we're not going to need it at that time of ingesting it, we're going to store it in that fat bank, which brings us on to fats. This is another one. I love fats. I love all of the macros, but I think fats get such a bad rap. Everyone was on that like low fat diet, or get the low fat milk, fat cheese. When I was younger, I remember that was very popular for a long time when I was younger.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of snacks were all low fat.
Yep. Yeah. And not that eating lower fat is necessarily bad. It can be the difference between calories, which can help facilitate weight loss. That some of the lower fat stuff have less of that fat that is not so great for your heart. So in that case, I would encourage it. But I would also encourage everyone to eat healthy fats. So those are the ones that are great for your brain and your eyes and your heart. And that's going to be like olive oil, avocados. We find that in nuts, fish. So those kind of fats are important as well.
Absolutely. I mean, fats provide us energy, like we talked about. It is our bank. and we use it as our bank because we get the most bang for your buck. For example, if the reason our body stores fat is because we can store 1 gram of fat and get 9 calories out of that gram. So compared to 1 gram of carbohydrate would give us yield 4 calories. So right, our body's not going to store, it's not efficient. We're not getting the most out of it, which is why our body is going to store that fat in our bank, like I say. But fat is more than just energy. It's more than just the bank. There's different types of fats that have all different functions throughout our body and our nervous system. Again, I'm just going to name organs and cells. It's everywhere. Our cells are made up of fat, the structure of our cells and our nerves. It's so important. And it's important to eat a diversity of different types of fats because they all serve different functions. The saturated fats, even though they get a bad rap, I think they get a bad rap because it just tends to be more present in the Western diet. Not that it's bad. It's just we eat more of it and we lack in the other types of fats that, again, are not any healthier. We just don't get enough of those. And like you said, they're found in the foods that you mentioned before. And then there's essential fatty acids as well. The omega fats that, again, like the amino acids, we can't synthesize. So we have to get it from our diet. Which is why to your point, we can't say fat is bad. We don't want to go completely fat free because it's not just energy we're talking about. We're talking about the fundamental infrastructure of our body is made up by fats.
Yes. I know. And it's, again, no one macro is bad, and cutting out a macro itself is not great either, because then you load up on the other ones and you kind of just get out of balance. And I think one thing about those foods that are sugar-free or fat-free, if we're taking something out, they're going to have to put a lot of stuff in to make it taste good. So really thinking about, what are we putting in here? Are we putting in more sugar to supplement for that, lack of fat, or, we're putting in more fat for the lack of sugar, or other ultra processed stuff. So, really kind of thinking and just, thinking about the food overall and the balance and your intake in general. I think that's what's important.
Yes. Excellent point. When foods are marketing as low fat, they are going to put something in there to compensate for that lack of flavor or lack of structure, because fat has its purpose. So it tends to make food taste better. And if it's not going to taste good, they're going to likely substitute it with more sugar or an artificial substitute. So be careful of all of that.
Absolutely.
All right. And you want to go for the bonus macro?
The bonus. Yeah. Your bonus is alcohol. So it's not essential. We don't need alcohol for survival. It's just, to be honest, I don't even know how it got looped into macros, but it gives you like 7 calories per gram. So you kind of up there with the fat as well. It's kind of high. It's, again, we don't need it, but we do. And some people enjoy it. So I think for somebody who is looking at macros or maybe wanting to count macros, that's kind of one of those forgotten pieces, or we kind of look at it and say, well, what do we do with this? So just, knowing that that's there, and that it does contribute. It has its own little.
Good point. Yeah. If we are looking at your intake and someone may feel they're eating somewhat healthy, but they're not really paying attention to the amount that they're drinking on the weekend, because it's pretty, there's a lot of calories in small glasses of alcohol that you're not thinking about. And that can add up, seeing that there are 7, almost as many calories per gram per fat. So it is a efficient fuel source in a way, but you can certainly overdo that, and that can lead to excess weight gain.
Yes.
So that's a very important concept. And you're not, there's no other nutrients, unless I'm mistaken, in that alcohol than just the alcohol itself for the most part.
I can't think of any other
Maybe if there's like in beer, I don't know. I would have to look more into it. Like, maybe other parts of the hops. I'm not sure. Probably nothing
Yeah.
substantial or like significant.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm drinking alcohol to get my vitamins and minerals. You wouldn't be doing it.
Well, if you have the orange juice with it,
All right, there you go.
a little vitamin C. But yeah, not essential. It's just one of those things that I think people often forget about, or especially if you're using macros for tracking and you're trying to use it for weight loss, you got to count it.
Absolutely. Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice from an expert. I think that's pretty much it. You want to close off with any good words of advice for people who are trying to eat healthier and watch their macros?
I would just say eat a variety. Don't leave anything out, and just enjoy food.
I like it. That's perfect. That's what people should think about when it comes to their diet. Variety, enjoy it. Try to manage the excess, eat in moderation. Understand all nutrients are important. There's always going to be a new star nutrient and superfood coming out. Don't get sucked into that. Understand the fundamentals, the basics, the hard science, and you'll have a good diet.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Kathleen. This is a good podcast. This is great.
Yeah, I agree.
I enjoy it. I think it's really important for people to hear. And obviously, our job at HealthieCoach is to help people get healthy. And we talk about these things because education is so important when it comes to nutrition. It's about empowerment, and education is key to becoming empowered so that you can live an independently healthy life. For a lot of us, we've been used to eating certain ways for so long, and we've never been properly educated on nutrition. And so we have these habits that aren't necessarily the healthiest. So we need help changing these habits, fixing them, and then readjusting to a healthier diet. For some people, they can do this alone. Unfortunately, that's for a few people. It is what it is. A lot of people need help, like any other skill, like playing a musical instrument, like learning some topic. You need help with it, at least in the beginning. And that's what we do at HealthieCoach. We provide you with the expert support. We're with you one-on-one, 24/7, helping you eat the foods that are right for you, that you can sustain and not only lose weight if that's what your health goal is, but just get healthier overall. Like we said, these nutrients do so much more than just weight. It's about building up your body, mental and physical, and being healthy for good.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll meet again for our next podcast. This was great. And I'll see you later. Thanks again, Kathleen.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.